You're listening to Walk the Herd on 93.7 The Ticket, when unheard issues get brought to light and every perspective counts. Here is your host, Rebecca Pearson.
All right, welcome in Sunday night, 7 o'clock. Still getting used to the time change. It's dark in Lincoln, Nebraska, but only 7 o'clock. So great to be here. This is Rebecca Pearson. Aniko, Renee is joining me. This is Walk the Herd. If you have not heard of this show before, don't change that dial. This is where unheard perspectives are heard and every perspective counts. How's it going tonight, Aniko?
It's going well. Just listening to the storms. We've had quite a plethora of varying weather, so just hanging out.
You said you have hail coming, or it's been there?
I've been listening to it for the past 20 minutes or so, just hoping that my noise cancellation does its thing.
Well, we can't hear it here, and we had snow flurries earlier today, so I think there's just cold weather taking the country by storm, literally. And we had today a half marathon here in Lincoln, which, we're going to talk about stress tonight. So tonight's show is about stress, so don't change the dial. Everybody can relate to this conversation. We're going to give you lots of perspectives, and we're going to ask Mr. Jake Bachhoven to join us probably too, because he can share in this. So for everybody listening, don't change the dial tonight. Hopefully will be fun. You can relate. You can always chat in or drop us a chat. We're at 402-464-5685. This is 93.7 The Ticket if you don't know where you're at on the dial. And you can drop in a chat to YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. And then if you're at home, you can tune in and listen to us on channel 961 with Allo. You can watch us on the YouTube Sartor Heyman video stream or call or chat in. So let's be a part of the conversation tonight. I started my day. You and I were talking about what we should do for tonight's conversation. It wasn't hard to land on stress since every day is full of it. So I'm going to tell you about my story this morning. I leave the house at 8:30. I live downtown in the Haymarket, and this half marathon I was completely unaware of. I don't know how I can live downtown and have literally no idea anything's happening until there's a queue and I can't get to my house. So at 8:30, I leave to go to the grocery store early. This is my new thing. I'm going out Sunday mornings, knock it all out for the week before anybody's at the grocery store. It took me a little while because I was doodling, checking out some new stuff, protein shakes, all kinds of things. And by the time I get back, there is a line on 34th or 9th Street coming into town. I can't even get into town, never mind get to my house. I'm like, what is going on? So, and I've got to drop off all the groceries because I've got like 45 bags, and we live in a downtown area where there's no place to park. So we have a parking garage, but it's a block and a half from the house. So normally I'd go to the grocery store, then I drive up right to my house, drop off the bags, and then go park in the garage. Well, 25 minutes just to get to the house. Of course, there's no parking because it's packed. So I'm having to park in the middle of the street to unload my groceries, and then I got to get in the car and go around and figure out how I'm going to get to the garage. And this is where everybody wants to park. So there's a massive line to get into the garage. This is how I start my day. So I was stressed out this morning. How was your day, Aniko?
My day was fine. Sunday, I honor the day of rest for sure and take it easy. But the week overall, right? The week overall was very chaotic, no matter how hard I tried to manage it. I have a middle schooler, so there's constantly email alerts, fundraisers, homework assignments. Everything's digital now, so it's half our job too. Doing normal things like making dinner, trying to teach, healthy eating tips, especially right now, showing that eating from home is more effective, just day-to-day things. It makes you feel like, what happened this week? I can remember what I did 3 years ago, or a song that I learned when I was 7, but last week, blur.
So how do you know you're stressed? So we're going to talk about stress tonight. We're going to let Jake jump in here too in a sec, but how do you know when you're stressed? Because it took me a long time to figure out how to know I was even stressed.
Definitely. I would say that my environment is typically a reflection of my brain space. So I'm usually very good about keeping up with chores in the house, keeping things clean. I worked really hard to get these things and view them as assets, so I treat them as such. That and procrastination. When it's something that I know I can do that, 2 weeks ago I would have already done, but I just am so bogged down by my own internal dialogue and thought process and to-do lists, not crossing off enough. Those are some signals for me that like I need to slow down, reconnect with myself, or at least prioritize me.
Right. Well, I think, so I'm sure there'll be people listening who can relate to that. As we were preparing for the show today, I was looking at kind of different ways people experience stress, different kinds of stress, and they're different people have different perspectives on this. They all count, of course, because this is Walk the Herd, where every perspective counts. But there were a couple of interesting things to me just to kind of give people a way to think about this, because if you haven't learned how to identify stress in yourself, it's a very good skill to have. But there's physical stress, emotional stress, cognitive stress, like organization, which I can relate to that one as well. Behavioral stress, which I also can relate to, for example, eating, which is the thing I do when I'm stressed, and also being short. Snapping at people, things like that, can be a behavioral thing. But there's different ways that stress shows up in your life. And there's also maybe different responses. You can think about fight or flight, freezing, fawning. I'd not heard of, people fawning over people when they were stressed. So that might not be so bad to me, but it was interesting to me to think about all the different ways that stress can show up in your life. Do you relate to any of those?
I'm a big fawner. It's like I disassociate as a tool for my brain to jump to safety, but that also means I'm cut off from joyous emotions, things that I would usually take the time to really laugh at. I kind of, haha, or, keep it moving. Don't take the time to really see the joy in everything I have going on. And I also think too, it's benefited me, especially in corporate situations, to be able to disassociate and kind of separate the emotion from what the job that needs to be done. But I would like to carry it over less.
Yes. Well, that was one of the descriptions under fawning, was over apologizing. And I do know people, in fact, I just met someone not that long ago who does that. And, she's kidding herself because she knows in her head, she wants to, let me put that, she wants to stop it. Not that she knows she needs to stop, because that's a decision of hers, but she wants to stop apologizing. And I had never thought about that as stress, but if you're stressed in a situation where you feel like you're not measuring up or somebody expected you to do something, right? I could see how over apologizing might actually be a stress reaction.
Definitely. And then saying sorry when somebody says you don't have to say sorry. The follow-up of just
we were cracking up. She was totally that person, and she's lovely. She's a new friend. She was lovely. Okay, Jake, you get to jump in here and share stress. You have a wife, you have a kid, you have a crazy radio station you work for. You got a whole bunch of random people you have to produce for on Sundays. What stresses you out?
I different things throughout the week or throughout a day can do so. I've tried to. I noticed that my stress usually, as you were kind of going through your list there, comes out through anger, which luckily I identified early enough that I'm not angry every day, right? I kind of understand that's what's going on, but it's funny because I noticed I used to kind of be snappy or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
Maybe bark at somebody. So I start to even make the joke with myself that when I get upset, I mentally joke with my wife that I'm blaming her, and she's like, "Well, we know this isn't my fault," but
Right.
it's it almost prevents me from just that, because that's what I used to do. Is just if I was stressed, I was just short with everybody.
Right. I could totally relate to that. In fact, you've probably been the recipient of that even here at the station. I haven't mastered it the way you have, but I love that you're sharing, that you and your wife have at least figured out sometimes how to laugh at it. Because I do feel laughter can be a de-stressor. If you can laugh at yourself, right? You have to be able to laugh at yourself for that to actually work.
And I think that's oddly enough too. I think that's my natural reaction to stress or anything is I kind of start with a laugh it off,
Mm-hmm.
right, and then I kind of get into it. Boy, does that make people mad when they're upset, though. Is when they're telling something that they're upset about, and my first reaction is to laugh.
Yes.
They think that, okay, this is not a joking matter. I'm being serious. You're taking this, and all that, and I'm just kind of naturally, I'm sorry. This is before I even think of anything. I laugh, even if I'm going to say something mean next.
Yes.
I'm just laughing to buy time. I don't know. It's my first reaction.
Yeah. And that's a great segue to the other half of the conversation we want to have tonight. And this is just a tee up. There's so many things to talk about, but how you want someone to support you when you're stressed, or how do you want the other person that you're being stressed around to respond, react, do, not do, whatever, right? There's a bunch of different things that people have expectations of, and sometimes it doesn't go well when you're the person trying to help someone who's stressed. And Aniko, I'm sure you have a million stories. I definitely do, on people that have tried to support you under stress, but we wanted to talk about that tonight too.
Yes. And for me, it's interesting to hear that your stress comes out to others where I completely internalize. So my self-talk is negative. I'm beating myself up, and I have to not physically, but mentally stop and say, try to think, if this was my son saying these things to me about himself, what would I say? And kind of carry that out like, no, you're a great person. No, you're trying your best, and flip that on its head, because otherwise you can just get stuck under a gray Eeyore cloud, and that doesn't really get you anywhere.
Eeyore, we were just talking about Disney. That's the Winnie the Pooh reference there, Eeyore cloud.
Yep.
Okay, cool. I picked up on it. I'm very proud of myself.
I try not to tote the Disney adult title, but I do love it. So.
Oh no, it's awesome. Well, we were talking about, that Disney, even as an adult, is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And when you say a cloud, I always think of Linus, and Charlie Brown. So is there an actual Eeyore cloud? I'm totally out of the loop. What is that?
He just essentially, sometimes it will just rain only on him. He can't find his tail, it's sunny everywhere else. And then eventually you kind of almost attract it like he does, like, oh, bother, eventually it's like, it's coming, big dog. You got to try to turn it around and be a Tigger a little bit.
He's such a great character. Jake, do you remember Eeyore?
Oh, I love Eeyore. In fact, I probably loved him too much as a kid. Maybe we could have, directed me toward one of the other characters, because it's not a role model to look up to. But I always thought it was hilarious.
I never thought of it till you mentioned it. I mean, I think of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, and I remember all those things. Of course, I'm older than both of you, but such great characters, and what a great reference for this conversation. I love it. One of the things that I discovered, and I know you did some research for tonight too, we have lots to talk about, but one of the things that I was looking at is just differences, right? The Walk the Herd show is all about different perspectives. And with that, people have stress for different reasons. Different things stress different people. They react different ways. We want support in different ways. And what's fascinating to me, at least some of the research would suggest that men and women respond differently to stress. And, I fight gender differences a lot because I always think of it in the work environment, and I'm really always fighting for equality in the work environment. But very fascinating to think about if that's true. And there's some research, and I'll post some references like I've been doing on the last few shows for people who want to look at this stuff. But, just at a high level, if you think about some of the differences that some of the research showed, if you believe it, is that women are statistically more likely to experience anxiety with their stress. They internalize it, which is what you just said, Aniko, fascinating. And then moody, that's a label women wear most of their life. It really sucks. But interesting that some of the research suggests that. Now we'll talk about why this might be based on environment. And then men are statistically more likely to externalize stress, maybe anger, react, say something, use distraction or avoidance. Again, common men-women thing, right? That he don't want to talk about it or whatever. And, stress-linked hypertension and cardiac issues, which if you look at some of the statistics on some of the health issues associated with stress, that's there. Now, what also is fascinating, and we should talk about this with three of us, we've got generational differences, gender differences, is why is that? What was it about our cultures and our environments? Because there's a ton of insight here of how you were raised, where you were raised, other countries versus this country, Americans, ethnic backgrounds, all kinds of stuff. So you want to weigh in on that, Aniko? What does that spark for you?
Definitely. From a public health perspective, I want to point out that women weren't included in medical trials until 1993. So a lot of times they genuinely don't know yet what and why we do the things we do. And like you said, it's kind of a label we've been fighting forever because, even women who get hysterectomies, it's based in somebody being hysterical, essentially the root word. So I think we're still kind of navigating and also allowing men to express the same moodiness, the same vulnerability. That's an up and coming issue for sure. But I think it comes down to, on a personal level, your reward or sense of danger in terms of when you expressed yourself as a child, your needs, was it shut down? Were you, counseled through it? I think we carry a lot more of that with us into adulthood than we realize. And I think sometimes, again, we always talk about it, there's a lot of unlearning to do. That if you grew up in dangerous situations, you may not necessarily need the tools in that toolbox that are anxiety, that are heightened awareness, that are, things like that. So I think everybody's trying their best, but at a certain point, we do have to kind of take a step back and go, where am I right now?
Right. And then, the title of the show is Walk the Herd, right? So it's walking a day in someone else's shoes. So I think identifying that someone's actually stressed, I'm horrendous at this. I really am. I just I don't know. I'm very focused, which is really good in lots of cases, but I'm then just tuned out, zoned out on how people are feeling. I mean, this is my area of opportunity for development, is being more tuned in. And I don't even know when someone's stressed. And it took me 45 or 50 years to know when I was personally stressed. Had no clue. It just took that long for me to figure out, oh, okay, that's what's happening. That's what I'm doing certain things. But if you think about what creates that, the environment that you're in, think about the gender norms that certainly my generation grew up with. Men don't cry, women, are taking care of kids. You've got this different kind of expectation that then creates, how you might deal with stress. Simply your social norms in your family. There's a lot of hierarchy stuff. If you're parents and you're a guy, I'm just going to mention again, these are all stereotypical things. That men don't cry and they're playing sports, and don't cry when you get hit and when you're hurt. And women we didn't have that, to my knowledge. I mean, you guys, so Jake, you're in between me and Aniko from a age perspective. What kind of norms would you say you grew up with? Not necessarily your family, but just, from your age group.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's still similar. Men kind of tend to bury their feelings, or even fight them out, or you find a different way to get it to go around there. But I find it all really interesting too, just because of your opening story of talking about driving in, is that the construction here in Lincoln is so bad that Coach Rule was talking about, was referenced it the other day, saying the team is under construction like many streets in Lincoln. So it's weird, because I noticed just driving with different people, I feel like an environment, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like maybe the environment that we have nowadays of trying to get everything done, and there's so much going on, that the road rage level, the easier way to kind of get there quickly, seems to be higher among more people now than maybe it was in the past. But I don't know that, because I've only driven for I guess 20 years now. But even in that time, it seems like I can identify road rage pretty quickly with people that I'm, as a passenger.
Yeah. Well, and I think about road rage for sure. There was a time in this country where there was a lot not good happening with road rage. People were shooting people, or, driving them off the road, or, I don't hear as much of that anymore, but I think the stress level for a lot of people that take it out on the road, and even social media. I mean, we could talk about that, where someone can't see you, they can't talk to you, right? You're hiding behind something. You're behind the wheel of your car. Generally, somebody isn't going to get out and yell at you. I feel like, that was early social media in your car, where someone couldn't respond to you, right? You could do something or say something. I mean, probably all of us are guilty for allowing words out of their mouth when someone's in the way, which I was doing this morning. And when someone, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to go into it, but I was definitely talking to myself not very nice about someone who just couldn't get it together in this traffic situation. I was like, what are you doing? It's a way of having an outlet where there's no reaction. Nobody can respond to you, right? So in one sense, I think driving allows that. I don't know, Aniko, what have you seen, and just you're in Maryland, we're here in Lincoln. Road rage is way worse to me in these big cities than it is here in Lincoln. And
Definitely.
don't even get me started on driving in Belgium. Belgium, if you're from Belgium or lived or worked in Belgium, it is hands down notorious for horrendous driving and road rage. Now, there's no guns over there, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just like crazy driving. So what do you see in Maryland? What strikes you as maybe cultural to even Maryland?
DC and Maryland are notorious for we're being wild drivers because you have to be aggressive in DC or you're not getting in your lane. You're not getting where you need to go. But we must be on the opposite side of the internet because all I see is people quick to confront each other, tapping on a window, getting out, then somebody has a gun, even still now, and sometimes it's racially motivated. Sometimes there's been some viral moments of the things that are funny where a woman's like, don't worry about me. My kids are listening to Kids Bop. And it's like they're having these interactions and dialogues, and it's no longer just you. It's you, the person, and the whole world who's watching on TikTok, essentially.
Right. Well, and so there's generational norms, I think, on how people exhibit stress, and maybe after the break we'll start talking about how to support people with stress. But thinking about why someone's stressed or what environment they grew up in that is shaping how they demonstrate stress. So whether it's a gender, and we could totally have people who wear the opposite gender stress profile. Okay, if we're going to stick with stereotypes like that, but certainly cultural norms. When I lived in Europe, you could see the different levels of stress coming out. And anybody who's worked with any of the Europeans and all the different countries all at once, they're very accepting of each other, but they talk about each other very freely. So you have wild hand movements if you're Italian, right? And you're yelling as part of your stress. Yelling, what I would consider yelling as a white American female, yelling is a raised voice. To them, they're just talking, and they're talking loud, and they're talking with their hands. Some of my friends from Latin America kind of had the same kind of a thing. Then you have very quiet cultures who won't say anything. The Germans, incredibly reserved, right? You're not going to have their very polite society. You're not going to have that going on. You've got the French a little bit more like the Italians, with a little more animation. So just cultural things I noticed from my time in Europe. And then you've got, you've got family hierarchies, large families, small families. You've got ethnic backgrounds, right? Like the Asian cultures. Again, lots of stereotypes, guys. I'm just sharing it to give perspective. A little more reserved. And in Japan, oh my goodness, you would never have an argument anywhere in public ever, right? So if you think about whatever someone's environment is, it's shaping how they react to stress.
Definitely. I think that's why I'm more, on the opposite end of, I can tell something's wrong or something's bothering someone before they can, more often than not, because there were situations growing up where my mom and I weren't in the safest situation. And so by gauging, tone, level of yelling, shifts in even body posture, it created this map for me in my mind of being able to gauge how much danger am I in? What can I do to, divert this, or can I make a joke or things like that? So I think that's why I internalize, because I'm constantly scanning, and it helps, but it's also super harmful when you're telling somebody, "Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? You don't seem like you're okay." And they're like, "I'm fine. I'm mad now that you keep asking me," but it's like, I can feel it in the air. I know something's happening.
Right. And they might be reading the signals all wrong. Right. So maybe we take a break here. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about maybe signs of stress, maybe things that the three of us don't experience, but we've seen other people experience. And then we'll talk a little bit about what kind of support do we all want when we're stressed, or how do we want the people around us to react when we're all stressed? So this is Walk the Herd at 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be right back after a break.
Nebraska farmers, harvest is here and every gallon counts. That's why Sat Brothers Petroleum launched the Go Big Red Fuel Giveaway. When you contract your fuel with Sat Brothers, enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits. As Husker Country knows, the only thing stronger than the roar at Memorial Stadium is the drive of a farmer putting food on the table. Fuel your farm with Sat Brothers Petroleum and enter to win $1,000 in fuel credits. Visit satbros.net today. Sat Brothers Petroleum, fueling the heartland. Go Big Red.
If the power is out, traffic lights might be too. If you come across a dark intersection, treat it like a four-way stop. See more tips at les.com/safety.
This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
This is Bill Mitchner, Executive Director of Lincoln Lighthouse. Did you know Lighthouse provides multiple programs for students such as one-on-one tutoring and mentoring, as well as pro-social skill exercises, while providing them a nourishing meal and a safe space during all months of the year, even during school breaks. Learn more or contribute to Lighthouse at lincolnlighthouse.org today.
This fall, Baumgars has everything you need to get your farm ready for the season. Stock up on livestock feed, deer corn, and pine shavings to keep your animals fed and your farm running smoothly. Need tools for your fall projects? Grab DeWalt power tools and grass seed to keep your fields in top shape before winter. From your barn to your backyard, Baumgars has you covered. Get ready for the season with everything you need to finish those fall fix-ups. Baumgars, field, farm, and fall fix-ups.
Are you looking to upgrade your equipment and keep cash in your pocket? Through October at Landmark Implement, get up to a 24-month waiver on select John Deere tractors and combines, or lock in a 2.9% fixed rate for 36 months, followed by a qualified standard rate for another 36 months. Whether you're thinking of this year's harvest or planning ahead, we've got a solution that works for your bottom line. Visit your local Landmark Implement for more details, or check us out at landmarkimp.com and experience the Landmark difference.
Schaefer's is celebrating its 79th anniversary with special rebates, financing, savings, and free delivery store-wide.
Update your home with innovative Samsung appliances and save up to an additional $900 with rebates. Samsung Innovation saves you energy and time with easy-to-connect appliance technology. Plus, during Schaefer's anniversary, get free delivery on your appliance purchase.
So hurry in during Schaefer's 79th anniversary event, going on now.
This is your year, where your team takes it all the way. Win way more than bragging rights at Warhorse Casino, where your love of the game could put $1 million in your pocket. The Pro Football Frenzy is free to play with prizes all season long. Weekly cash prizes up to $1,000 cash, season-long leaderboards, and a chance to win $1 million. Only at Warhorse Casino. Wagers may only be placed on Nebraska-based teams when played outside the state of Nebraska. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call 1-833-BET-OVER.
Fall is here, and so are cooler temps, darker evenings, and slick roads. Is your vehicle ready for the change in seasons? At A1 Automotive, we've got you covered. From tire checks, brake inspections, batteries, and heater systems, we make sure your car is road ready for the Nebraska winters ahead. Don't wait until the first frost. Schedule your fall car care checkup today and drive with confidence all season long. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
You're listening to Walk the Herd on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Rebecca Pearson.
All right. Welcome back to Walk the Herd. Having a great show, conversation tonight on stress, something everybody can relate to, and all the different ways we exhibit stress, why we might exhibit stress differently, trying to just appreciate different perspectives. And, you know, one of the reasons that that's important in life is because when you're around someone who has stress, we all do something, even if the something is doing nothing. When you're around someone who's stressed, you have some kind of a reaction. And I want to talk a little bit about support, but I also want to share a couple of things that I found when I was doing research, just because I think it's fascinating in that there's a little handle that I really like. So if you don't remember anything from the show, this concept of fight or flight versus tend and befriend comes from the research, right? So whether that's a gender difference or just two different people, some people are fight or flight, and others are tend and befriend. I just thought that was kind of catchy. But then, the different types of stress, again, physical stress, emotional stress, cognitive stress, some of those things are easier to see. Some people, when they're stressed, they're shaking or really animated, agitated. Emotional stress, you might see, or behavioral, maybe more than cognitive, where someone is organizing or not organizing or checking the things off the list, right? There's just thinking about the fact that some of these things are very visible and some of them are not. So maybe, Aniko, you want to start the conversation just on support, or, whatever word we want to use for when you're in the vicinity of someone who is stressed. What is it that you want or that you expect from someone?
So whether it's, stress or flat out depression, I always try to advise people to treat someone like they have the flu. Be a little extra patient, help them with daily tasks, like help make them a meal, check on them a little more than you usually would. Give them that bedside manner. Or if they're the type of person when they're sick who wants to be left alone and sleep, create that quiet environment, shut the door, slide, a sandwich under the door, something like that. But essentially you need compassion all the way around, no matter how you're handling it. Just a little extra TLC is what I expect and what I suggest.
Okay, good. Yeah. See, I think I would be different. I mean, and I suspect that what we want may vary depending on the type of stress we're having. So I'm thinking a lot of times when I'm stressed, I just want to share why I'm stressed. So on the break, I was unloading on Jake. It was great. I felt vindicated and freed by telling him about my crazy experience in traffic this morning. And I just wanted to share the story. It helps me relieve the internal agitation and stress for me. Now that was a nothing scenario, just a come and go type of a stress. If I had some kind of a longer term, more significant stress, I still think like I'm a talker. I would want to share and talk about it sometimes. So we're different, right? And potentially driven by different stress systems.
Definitely. And also, sometimes people aren't going to want to talk the first time. Sometimes they're still processing themselves what's going on. So that's why I circle back to that extra check-in aspect of things, of like, you don't have to fix it. It doesn't have to be immediate or perfect, but patience is really key. It takes a while to get well, no matter what the situation is.
Yeah, you mentioned fix it. I mean, it's a natural thing for some people, and I don't think I want someone to fix mine either. But again, this is an interesting topic for me because I haven't put this much thought into this topic. We're having this conversation live. Part of my own growth and development is having these conversations and being interested in what happens. One of the things that is normal for me to think about is asking someone how they want to be treated when they're stressed. Now, having that conversation you maybe could do when they're being stressed. Maybe it's someone that outside of that individual moment when that's happening, where you can say, hey, if I see you in this situation again, what would you like me to do? Kind of like you and I are talking right now, right? So if I found that you were stressed, then that extra tender care could be meaningful to you. What do you think about asking people, how they want to? How do you think about that? And when would you do that?
It's interesting because it hasn't ever occurred to me to have that as like a precursor conversation. I'm more of a crisis management, contingency planning person, where I'm like, okay, well, here are all the ways that this could go wrong or all the ways it could go right. Like in the heat of the moment, trying to decide and figure out what's working based on their facial expressions, their body language, the tone in the room. Like I'm constantly working in that space. So, Marvel concept, discussing it before.
Yeah, that's why we're doing it. I mean, what if, go back to a show we had a couple of weeks ago on spenders and savers. I'm sure for someone who finds himself in let's call it a temporary situation with not enough money, for sure that could create stress. But, right, pay bills,
feel like a bother.
Medical, yes, right. And so you're having stress. How does someone know you're under financial stress if you don't tell them? They probably don't, right?
You don't. You'd have to pick up on, hypersensitive cues like I do. Like, okay, they're making sure to bring lunch at all times. They never want you to pick up their tab, which you would think the opposite. Like, they're just being considerate, but it's like they probably already feel so burdened and bogged down that they don't want to owe one more person something or be a bother to someone else. So very subtle changes. A lot of people are great chameleons, and you have to be to almost not have your kindness mistaken for weakness sometimes. Not everybody, but I think you just have to take a peek in and care, because you can tell when something has changed with someone, like whether their behaviors are increasing or ceasing completely. You can gauge, are they not doing any more activities that they used to participate in? Could that be financial? Yes. Could that also be emotional? Yes. That's one perspective.
I mean, that could cause physical stress too, depending on what's going on.
Definitely. Tummy issues are a big one for a lot of people when they're upset.
True. True. Yeah, just digestion or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that sort of internalization physically might be more noticeable. But one of the things you said that I think is really important, it's paying attention to just change. When someone is different than what they typically are, and this goes without saying, it fits the whole scope of this show, but when someone starts acting different for whatever reason, something's probably different. If you know someone well enough to notice that, but just paying attention, something's probably different. And maybe either asking, and again, someone may not share with you. So the level of comfort to share why someone's under stress may not be something they want to share. But then maybe, as you said, considering whether extra care, right? Bringing them a extra, I don't know, piece of chocolate for the chocolate lovers here at the station, because I can't keep enough chocolate in the dish here. So I know the guys here and the gals here love chocolate. So an extra piece of chocolate, something special, just something that's saying you're paying attention. Some people might like that.
Yeah. And it can look frustrating from your own perspective too. Like, as much as you want to give care and be considerate, you can in fact feel frustrated watching someone become or act like a stranger. And you're like, why aren't they meeting these deadlines? Why aren't they texting back? Why aren't they coming out to girls' night? They just keep blowing us off, or whatever the case. It's okay, and it's normal to be frustrated with those changes. It's not always sunshine and a gift basket, but it's just a point of setting your own emotional coping mechanisms aside for the moment. And like you said, pay attention, because what's the bigger risk? Not talking about it at all and losing out on somebody that you do know that just is kind of missing for the moment, or the latter,
Right. And I do want to share, once we're talking about this, because paying attention, noticing is a perspective that we're trying to give, I think, tonight, right? And giving examples, because you will pick up on them. Maybe if you remember listening to our show, we're picking up on examples of different ways that stress shows up. So you've got people, I just want to run through some things just to sensitize, because we talked about the physical reaction just now. People who aren't sleeping well, if they tell you, I haven't slept well in a week, might be a sign. Somebody who is getting headaches more frequently might be a sign. Certainly digestion, change in appetite, eating more, eating less. And sometimes that's very noticeable. I fit that description, unfortunately, all too well. Those are some of the physical things. Then you have emotional signs. Let's say somebody who's normally energetic isn't as energetic. Somebody who is normally doing a great job and suddenly they appear to not be motivated or don't enjoy doing what they used to do. Crying, usually a sign for people who aren't usually crying. If they start crying, that might be a good sign. You can see that. Just general talk about worry. And then forgetfulness, I think one for people who don't typically forget, start forgetting, becoming disorganized. In my case, becoming more organized. If you see me like going crazy with checklists, there might be a stress thing going on. That's a me thing. So could go either way. Catastrophizing. How about behavioral things? I talked about eating. There's alcohol use, overeating, undereating, procrastination. You mentioned, Aniko, spending money, gambling, right? All the kind of usual vices so these are just a handful of things that might be ways that people are demonstrating stress. And back to what do we all want from our friends, our family, people that see us doing this can vary widely. So we haven't let Jake talk about how he might want someone who observes him. What's your go-to stress besides anger? You have another one?
Probably overthinking, I guess.
Overthinking, yeah. So how do you want anybody to even notice that you're stressed and say anything to you? You just want to be left alone? What's your go-to?
It's funny because I prefer to be left alone, but that obviously leads to more overthinking. So it's not always the best route. But I don't like to look emotional or that sort of stuff. So I don't like to come off that way.
Right.
So it can be difficult. I think it's fantastic to talk things out. Like you said earlier, men don't generally think that way, but if you've ever tried counseling, it's fantastic. There's a reason why there's a whole business around it.
A large business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if what I prefer is maybe what's even best.
Yeah. Well, so great point, right? And so maybe even without you even knowing it, someone who knows you well, who sees you overthinking a situation or just sees you in a corner, right, thinking more than you should. Hey, dude, something going on? What's going on? Something very benign, perhaps, of how was your week? Sometimes might trigger a conversation where suddenly you start talking about it without saying, I'm totally stressed out by XYZ that happened. If you're just talking about the thing. But it is interesting. It's a great point. You don't always know what's helpful to you when you're stressed, and the whole industry of that, for sure.
Leave some food on the table. So don't make them eat it all at once, and make them tell you right then. Leave the offer hanging of, if you change your mind and you get hungry, let me know. I'll be around, that type of thing.
Well, I mean, it's a great conversation, and we don't have answers here. We're trying to give perspectives and things that maybe we like and things that we're finding in the research. One of the things I wanted to share, and I'll tee this up right before we go to another break. In the corporate world, this is a huge deal because we are managing people, and people get stressed. And if you want to pick on corporate with a typical corporate mindset and work ethic that is stereotypical in many cases, but heavy workloads, certainly high expectations, and depending on the company you work in, different ways of evaluating people and performance that affect their pay. I mean, I can think of Amazon's very well known for this. GE is very well known for this. ExxonMobil was very well known for this. But different environments, work environments, and so there's quite a few. I'm going to say tests or things that you can do. So if anybody's ever heard of an Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, some of these assessments help you understand yourself and how your work style is, but they also show you what you do when you're under stress in a work environment. So I will leave it at that while we take a break. This is Aniko, Rebecca, and Jake talking about stress and support on Walk the Herd 93.7 The Ticket. We'll be right back.
After a long, hot summer, are you ready for fall? What about your home? Is your heating system ready for cooler temperatures ahead? Call Bryant for your fall heating check. No matter what brand of equipment you own, Bryant's trained technicians will thoroughly clean and inspect your furnace or heat pump to make sure you stay warm, safe, and comfortable. Call today to schedule your home heating check. 467-1111. Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing. 467-1111. Bryant, whatever it takes.
Tired of asking what's for dinner? Nourished for Life has got you covered. At Nourished, they're a local meal prep company that delivers fresh, chef-crafted, healthy meals straight to your door. Made from wholesome ingredients and ready when you are. No shopping, no chopping. Just heat, eat, and enjoy every night of the week. Fuel your busy days with balanced meals that are designed to keep you satisfied and energized. Visit nourishedforlife.co to purchase meals and taste the convenience of home-cooked comfort without the hassle. It's game on at Elway Power Sports of Lincoln, Nebraska's premier power sports dealership. Get geared up for savings like you've never seen before during Elway Days. Their biggest sale of the year runs October 14th through the 18th, when every red tag machine is priced at invoice plus $300. That's it. No freight, no setup, no extra fees. Don't miss out on these epic savings. Elway Power Sports of Lincoln has you covered all under one roof with a large selection of side-by-sides, ATVs, motorcycles, and personal watercraft at the 27th and I-80 location.
Imagine hitting rewind on your life 10, even 20 years. With testosterone therapy from Limitless Male, you can turn back the aging clock and get your edge, energy, and confidence back. If you've lost your drive, sleep deprived, muscle loss, belly fat, irritable, you're not the guy you once were. Get your T levels checked at Limitless Male. More and more men are realizing hormone replacement can turn back the clock. Schedule your free consult at limitlessmale.com.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 27th in Omaha. Help us thank volunteers with a celebration to remember. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You never think cancer will happen to you. I smoked for over 40 years. My doctor recommended that I get annual lung cancer screening. They were able to catch my cancer at stage 1. It's never too late to quit. Even if you're still smoking, you need to ask your doctor about annual lung cancer screening. Just 30 minutes a year could save your life.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Husker fans know when you work together, great things happen. At Cornhusker Bank, they're more than your financial partner. With 5 locations in Lincoln and 1 in Omaha, they're your neighbors, your teammates, and your biggest fans. Whether you're saving for your first home, planning your future, or growing your business, they're right here in Nebraska to help you move forward together. Visit cornhusker.bank to learn more. Cornhusker Bank, member FDIC. Doing life together.
You're listening to Walk the Herd on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Rebecca Pearson.
All right. Welcome back to Walk the Herd. We have just a few minutes left having a great conversation on stress for people who are just tuning in. Don't forget, you can always just call and chat on the Honda of Lincoln hotline, 402-464-5685. Don't forget, you can download the app and listen to us. All these shows are recorded, particularly Walk the Herd and some of the other shows that we do. they're kind of evergreen. These topics are going to apply for a long time. So you can always listen to our recorded shows, even if you've missed it. So tell your friends. Everything's on YouTube or on our social media channels and at theticketfm.com. So picking back up right before the break, I was talking about how you handle stress and how to manage people with stress and identify stress is discussed in the corporate world. Or I'm just going to say in the management ranks. Let's put it that way. I learned a lot of this in my corporate experience at ExxonMobil. But when you are learning how to manage people and manage organizations, this is a very common topic because you have cultures in companies. To talk about stress, we could pick on the tech companies, startups. Again, we'll pick on things that people generally know. Startup environments, very difficult. Not a lot of people, not a lot of money, crazy deadlines. Often you might have a founder that isn't really a great manager. So that creates a culture that isn't very well managed, even though they might be very bright on technology. There are all kinds of things that create stress in startups. And if any of you know a friend that worked in a startup, you could ask them about this. Not atypical. Up to and including a high performance culture, which can drive a stress level from perfectionism to I have a terrible supervisor and I have no idea what to expect from them. And therefore, it's all stress because I don't know what they want from me and I keep trying to deliver it and they're not happy with me, but I don't know what the heck they want, right? I'm just giving some examples. And these assessments that you can do that are available to anybody. So if you go out, if nobody's heard of the Enneagram, it's probably one of the more accessible ones. DISC is another one, DISC. These are assessments you can take, very cost effective. I mean, they might be $15, $20, something like that. And it describes a little bit of how you react, either in a work environment or how you are. I'm trying to stay away from calling it a personality test because I don't like that. And it's not a test, it's an assessment. But as I said, most of these assessments have explanations once you take them. It kind of describes who you are based on a battery of questions. And I really mean a battery. You might have 100 questions in these assessments, but it'll talk to you about how you react under stress. So if you don't know how you react, or someone hasn't been nice enough to tell you, hey, dude, you're acting weird, you're stressed out, this is what you do. These assessments can be really helpful. And then we study these and how, as managers, you want to be able to identify it. So back to what we were talking about when we started this show, how do you recognize stress? Sometimes in a work environment, you will see, and this is a general takeaway, that when someone's good at something, a lot of times they will, let's say, focus on that more when they're stressed. So if I talk about I'm talking about myself. So organization, I always make lists. But when I'm stressed and overwhelmed with too much stuff, I'm seriously sitting down and making a list. I did it this morning because I'm feeling a little bit like that now. And I'm like, I can't do anything till I make myself a list and get organized. And then I get blunt. I'm already blunt. This was great feedback I got in my corporate life. I'm already blunt, but I get very direct when I'm under stress. And you can probably relate to those two things because I think those are pretty common. Aniko, do you have anything that you can relate to from a work environment that might fit?
I can. I would have to say on a personal level, I do or did, in the past somewhat seek acceptance. We talked about in another episode, belonging. So even with those assessments, there can be socially acceptable answers that people will tend to choose versus how they actually feel in fear of being judged. So I think it can become tricky when you're putting yourself, like, jumping through hoops that don't exist because you don't feel good. It's hard to gauge if it's you or if it's them. Like, are their expectations off, or is this absolutely ridiculous workload and I should have more help? Do I need to take a break, or should you have advocated for me to have a break?
Right. And how, so you would, you could say that some ways you handled stress, not necessarily you per se, but in situations in work environment, is just saying what you think somebody wants you to say.
Absolutely. While trying to outperform, out-achieve, out everything, until I worked myself into a autoimmune disorder because that internalization. So,
right.
You know, I think I'm a big fan of a good list too, and that also includes pros and cons. There's nothing wrong with assessing, like, is this situation healthy for me anymore? Can I do better? So,
right, and extended
cool.
stress can certainly create physical issues, and then mental health. And I think you had wanted to make a reference. Maybe you make that reference as we close out here, right? For if you have mental health, you're experiencing stress.
Definitely. If you notice somebody in your life, withdrawing, increasing substance use, any of the things we talked about, changes in behavior, obsessive, behaviors over things, 988 is a great resource. 988. You can text, call. They have 24/7 licensed, therapists and counselors. Even if you are a concerned loved one, you can use this resource. And it's a great way to get solid information that's based on fact and experience. So just wanted to include that in there.
Fantastic. All right. This is Walk the Herd with 93.7 The Ticket. We'll drop some links in the chat. Thanks for listening to us tonight. Stress and support. We hope it was helpful to you. We'll see you next week.